Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Leadership Void Podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince to bring you the best in our veteran, military spouse, and first responder community. And Vince will introduce today's guest.
Hey, absolutely, Enrique. Happy July, everyone. We're concluding this month very strong again. Crystal Bethea, guess what? She is the CEO and franchisor of C3 Wellness Spa, all the way down the street from Kissimmee, Florida. Crystal, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much. This has been an honor, to be on this podcast today. This is awesome. A little bit about myself. I'm a wife. I've been maybe 15 years. My husband, Marcus. I have an 8-year-old daughter I love so much. She's my everything and my one and only. So her name is Eris. A little bit about myself. I'm hardworking and, I'm a rider for my community for sure. Army veteran, Army strong.
All right. And Army strong, right? Because we get to spend several occasions that we bump into each other through the community and events that we do here locally for the veterans. But I wanted to ask you, tell me about C3 Wellness Spa, because we actually had the benefit of seeing that come from the ground up and have witnessed the growth. So tell us about that.
Oh, I'm telling you, FAVOB 2 has been a huge part of that growth for me as well. C3 Wellness, we're complete comprehensive care and we do holistic services. We have a plethora of modalities that we offer, from acupuncture, massage, facials, physical therapy, IV therapy, salt booth, the list goes on. But the main focus, of course, is to treat, the body holistically, help it to kind of, function on its own without, opioids and things of that nature, just going back.
No, absolutely. We love that. You sound so professional, easy saying that pitch, but we know there's been bumps and bruises, and we'd love to know, share with our audience, those entrepreneurship challenges or lessons learned that you would love to share.
Sure. I think it's important to diversify your portfolio. I started off with a handful of services, but based on my clientele, I realized that your hands can only do so much, right? So I was like, we're not God. We need other things, to kind of, help treat our staff and whatnot. So I was like, I added acupuncture on. That's when I added that modality on. Made a huge impact on my base. And then I was like, okay, during COVID, we had to shut down. It got tough. And I was like, I think people sat around. It really set their range of motion. Everything was spiraling the wrong direction. So that's when I brought on physical therapy. So, you got to pay attention, read the room, see what it is that you can do that you can make more of a difference and a stronger impact. So I just kept adding those things on and, which kind of embodies everything we do today. So yeah, I'm not afraid to switch it up.
And paying attention to your customer is so vital in business and the longevity of business. So talking about that longevity, what's on the horizon for C3 Wellness Spa? I know you started on your own now. You added a franchise option. So I already see the growth just in the name alone, but tell us about that.
Sure. Oh, that was tough. We actually started the franchise process during COVID as well. We were like, what can we do to, put this brand of, care everywhere, because even during COVID, we were able to expand into 2 locations. I expanded my second location by another 2,000 square feet, where, in a market where you kind of see a lot of, spas shutting down, a lot of businesses closing. It was a tough time, for America at that time. And we were thriving, even during that market. So it was like, what can we do to, help business owners and to still be able to treat the community with all the things we have to offer? It was really making a difference during COVID. So I went through the franchise process, and I believe it took me a year to finesse my policies and procedures and make sure everything was duplicatable. And, that it was amazing. It was an amazing time, to kind of, you got the opportunity to see what you're made of, so, you lean in and you get it done. And, it's a process, but we was able to finish it. So now C3 Wellness, It's no longer mom and pop. It is a franchise business now.
Well, hats off to you and your team for making this a franchise, right? Because now it's taking you and catapult to the next level. So love everything you're doing and what's on the horizon for C3 Wellness Spa. So curious now, let's turn to leadership, Crystal, and talk about what do you do to kind of read your own self and it makes yourself more accessible and more attainable for the world as far as your skill set in your professional life. What do you do?
Oh man, I'm a researcher at heart. I try to stay in the know and abreast of everything that's going on as far as wellness. And I mean, I can't even I can't even get it all in. There's so much out there, but I do. I try to do as much research as possible. I want to stay ahead of the game. Don't by no means do I know it all, and there's so much to learn. I'm teachable, so whenever there's something new that's come up, I'm like, okay, how can I implement this in my business? And I go and I teach my team, and we do research on it together. How does this fit in the grand scheme of things? And some things we discard, and some things we roll with. And it's been positive changes in my business due to it. But research, research, research.
And research
So
is the
yeah.
base of all things that we do. We have to know not only where things came from, but where things are headed. And so that's a great, powerful tool to implement in business and in professional life, right? So you're trying to teach your team and you have to know where to guide them. So now you served in the Army, Hua, and you did you did your time there. I'm sure you learned some things that have translated into business and how you do that. So what advice did you receive that you would like to pass on to an emerging leader today that you found valuable?
I'm telling you, even in the short period of time that I served, I have to tell you, I'm gonna keep it simple. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's no such thing, as certain. You know how you have to be patient with things. When it comes down to it, I think everybody's perception of things is different. You have to learn to be patient with that. There's different, walks of life and education base and whatnot, but everybody has value, and it's a lot that everyone together can bring to the table. I think I've learned as well that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to accept help. So if there's a challenge or a problem that you're running into, I think it's really important to not focus on that problem, but to develop a plan and start doing what you can to try to execute that without allowing the ship to sink because you're afraid of asking for a helping hand. I think it's important to be able to accept help. Your pride shouldn't be so big that set everything ablaze in your path.
No, absolutely. Pride and ego does definitely is a detriment to self-learning and self-healing and also team development. So love everything you shared as far as that advice, Crystal. How
Thank
about
you.
a memorable leadership aha moment? Let's share with our audience today. Which one would that be?
Aha. I'm gonna say I think it's important to think big, I guess, in the beginning. Think bigger than yourself. I know a lot of people want to be like entrepreneurs, but see yourself working past just your limitations. You want to be able to bring on more people. You want to be able to be the mogul, not necessarily the one that's completely hands-on. I think your branding, if you start branding yourself early, go through sunbiz.org or whatever organization in your state and see if that name is available, see if it's trademarked, and whatnot, and go ahead and start that paperwork early. So, I mean, you never know where it's going to take you, but if you take yourself seriously and you work as hard as you work for everybody else, that name, that trademark will be your brand. So think that big and think that big early, because I mean that was my setback on my franchise doing during COVID. I I had a certain name that then by the time it was time to trademark and do all those things with the franchise, that set me back a whole year because the state didn't have enough employees, and I think it took 8 months to get a response back on a name to be registered, and it was still a no. So I had to come up with another name, which was C3 Wellness, that actually came through the pipe. But it was like, look how long that took me. If I had done it right the first time and in the beginning, I wouldn't have been a year behind. But I know everything happens for a reason. But if somebody else can avoid that pitfall, brand yourself. Take yourself seriously. Brand early.
And we always talking about challenges. Trademarking is one of those challenges in business. You have to make sure that you get up front and do it right. Research, as you mentioned earlier, is one of those ways you can get ahead of that curve. So talking about challenges and change, because that caused you to change things about your name, things about your company. So what are certain strategies you use with your team or in general that deal when dealing with change and challenges?
Oh, I tell them to breathe in and out. You have to pause for a second, breathe in and out, think before you speak. Sometimes, it depends on the challenge, you get that response can be a downward spiral. So if you just pause, think about it, you don't always have to have the answer right away. Let somebody know that you'll get back with them once you've done the work. Let me look into this. Let me see what I can do. Don't answer or respond right away. Sometimes the other person may not give you all the details that you need to make that informed decision. It's totally okay to just let me sit back from this so I can see clearly. And it works every time. I tell you, I think some of my staff members, I think I've gotten in some trouble some years back over that very thing. I'm like, what? She said, what? This happened this way? And then I'm gonna go and try to fix the problem without knowing the whole aspect. And then I get slapped in the face later on. It's like, oh, I could have just, stay out of my emotions and, take my time, but sit back from something. Don't answer right away. You don't have to,
No,
so.
absolutely. You got to let it marinate, right? Take that pause. uh, Absolutely. To your earlier point, do your research, understand all the facts before you execute your own ideas and plan for that, for those options, because it does impact initially if you do a knee jerk. So great advice, great strategies. Love what you're doing, Crystal. So folks that want to either be part of this franchise or actually have some of these services done at C3 Wellness Spa, how do they contact you or the spa?
Oh, absolutely. They can reach me by, my friend, well, let's see, my email, but I'm gonna give you my website. You have to go there. It's going to tell you everything you need to know, and you can reach me from there. For services in Florida, it is c3wellness.com. And then for the franchise, it is www.c3wellnessfranchise.com. So take your time. It's a mouthful. You got to get it all. But yeah, those are easy ways to reach me for sure. You can fill out questionnaires and, we'll be here to answer your questions. I have a team behind me.
Well, folks, we'll have that as part of the video and show notes so you can get a hold of Crystal and C3 Wellness Spa. If you want to get a hold of us at the Leadership Void podcast, the leadershipvoid@gmail.com is where you'll send that correspondence. If you would like a specific leadership topic covered on the podcast or a guest featured, let Vince and I know via that means.
Yes, and absolutely. And talk about early on FAVOB. FAVOB is one of our sponsors. We're so grateful for them, for Triple Nickel and VEI for being our sponsors of this wonderful show. But today was all about Crystal and C3 Wellness Spa. Crystal, great things you're doing in the community and in the world. So continue doing that. Much success in the future. Have a great one.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it so much.